the prime tutor of His Holiness the 17th Galwa Karmapa. He is the main teacher for the Kargyu Tulkus and is an exemplar of the Kargyu lineage. A tremendous scholar, realized master, and an incredible gift to all of us at this time. So I welcome you, and I'm glad that you had this wonderful opportunity to come and hear Rinpoche teach, and I request, Rinpoche, that you do teach us.
Tatari ngaranke chenambanji tene tatari dinala jerdu tene tanda som deji pata tene terrain mixar ke me mambotan tene tese ngaranso melom ke kor heji pachuma telape gavuchong tuji chekyoyela Ti Jesu la tampo ngaranke kajipe lama jipa tamchila sonde che indengi la ti kapsala chiranambe ke tepa tamugi chini survata naruchi.
I'm delighted to have this opportunity to meet with all of you this evening, and not only to be able to come here to this retreat, but especially to see so many of you here this evening where I'm going to discuss prayer. And now, having said that, I will begin with a traditional supplication to the teachers of a Kagyu tradition. While we're reciting this, please cultivate faith and devotion.
So Tene 다 terenge kapsala ngarangi melam ke kor hyoju yapate pe gabochong la junsen kare rese na ta tingsang ke kapsala tene te se nasa mandawa boda tene te yendala montu mandawa boda tene 다 총례 냠네 반조르 냠네 다제 울본 주르게 년가에 발라서 받다 딘데 중화인 비처나 때지 딘데게 쟁행 반다고 마본테 다 딘데 중 값을라 강 갈체 그래서나 다 나란서 선바상보던 템베고네 너놈이 야보잡주데 베 갈체보 레라 테네 다 간디지 이나야 명람 상부자주데 갈치와 인비처나 다리 명람진 데보다 명람제 팽야라서 바해지 중화데 베 가부정라 테네 디 고르데지 효기
As I mentioned a moment ago, I'm quite pleased to have been asked to speak to you tonight about prayer, because this is a topic that is very important for us at the present time. We are facing many new illnesses. There seem to be lots of wars happening all over the place. There's the economy and the resulting poverty. At such times, it seems that the best thing we can do is to consciously cultivate an attitude of universal benevolence, and also to strongly make good prayers or aspirations. And so I'm pleased to have this opportunity to talk to you about prayer or aspiration and its benefits and its results.
테네 다 대견들라 다 단다 ngaranso namba sanji bi chulun zamba nam yinaya ndra te jendo ngaranso namba sanji ba main bi chulun zamba nam yinaya ndra te teni kanga ga losam number tap go ni nalam ja ta tende mambo nange yore la teni te ta te jerdo jitinchi kam jeta teni jitinchi kam shero kanga la pembe ge kuhon number tap ji yimba 펜베 끈호 넘버 타바 임바 잠도요 마지 데 멜럼데 렘지 니파르토 룹토바지 임베체나 강각 멜럼 잡발라 멜럼 잡나와라 투지체 교주리
Whether someone is Buddhist or an adherent of another religion, everyone is involved in the cultivation of benevolence and the practice of prayer motivated by that benevolence. People are praying very strongly for the whole world as well as for specific parts of it. And this cultivation of benevolence and this making of benevolent aspirations is not just the cultivation of an attitude, it is effective, and what you pray for will be achieved. That being the case, I want to start by thanking all of you for your prayers.
테네 다 텔라야 저도 테네 멜럼 생기테 베 칼쳔보 테네 랑 셈제 따이네 뭐바다 멜럼 제 여나 테니 티샤와테 루지에 바제다 다티 랑 셈제 따이네 뭐바다 멜럼 데 메나 테니 샤와테 루주마이 바지 임비처나 지당근 알아서 파티에나 테니 레카티 시고파마도 다가시 멜럼 잡아티 고파메 반다보진 통그레데 예나양 운이 데 마이바 셈제 따이니 테니 뭐바다 멜럼 세주데 휴침보임 비처나 베르나 메제 자가르도지데는 로 somne 나 자가르도지데는 인지민진 로구도 sombe 멜럼제 여나 데 갑지라 렘도 요레라 다 데이터부 그 뭐바동 멜럼 짜니 메나 디 튜남도 용 레기요 말이라 드니 티처나 드니 지당가 나란서 홉디 때나 멜럼라 누바 메반다보진 통그레데 인나요 단지 온드시나 멜럼 생기텔베 누바다 드니 팬 야친 보여 버든데
Aspiration is extremely important. Because if you possess aspiration, you will accomplish what you aspire to. And if you do not possess aspiration, you will not accomplish them. Now, aspiration, simply wishing for something, seems useless on the face of it. We often think, well, the only way you accomplish anything is by going about it, by doing the work. Just wishing for it is not going to have any effect. But this is not really true, because the aspirations we hold in our minds have great power and therefore bear great fruit. For example, if someone decides that they absolutely must go to Vajrasana, Bodh Gaya, then they'll be able to one day. But as long as they have not generated the resolution or aspiration to do so, they'll never go there. They'll never get there. So while it may seem that aspirations by themselves are powerless, they are nevertheless essential.
테네 다테야 저도 나랑게 두준도 빼가요라 멜럼텔라 지당게 멜럼데 룹토바제다 멜럼데 룹모토바지 넘버 2요라라 테네 멜럼 룹모토바데 간데지레세나 페르나 나랑게 조시텐라 메토지 고도 메토지 지와쇼 손네 멜럼 가세자 로 다와지네 멜럼잖아야 조시텐 메토드 사티게 투기요 말해라 다원은 멜럼 간데시 잡고 그러세나 나랑게 조치 때는 매도지 그것도 대처도 다대 뭐바 첨부제다 나 드네 레와 첨부지 정나 대게 산지 선배게 따이네 드네 매도가 코마제 크로용 디나나 매도제 다 데라 쳐다 레라소바 자르나 드네 조치 때는 매도지 또 그래라 베 대전도라 나란소게 지당가 멜럼 상보 잡고 그래라 멜럼 상보 잡아텔라야 찐 창고 그래라 찐 가리 창고 그래서나 찐 드니 랑 썸바 상보 드니 썸발라 초룸메바 추리메바 제기초라 해당당 제기초라 드네 현반다고 마인바 탐지라 중놈메바 예린 초동메 보고니 로섬 넘버 타바 제기 고니 멜럼 양타바지 답나 드네 림비림비게 눕토 그래.
Nevertheless, there are two types of aspirations. There are those which can be accomplished and those which cannot. The example of these two that I usually give is, for example, if I think I need and I want a flower to grow on my desk. If I just wait there, spend months or even years making the aspiration, may a flower grow out of my desk, it's still not going to happen. On the other hand, if I think I really want a flower on my desk, and so I find a pot, fill it with soil, plant the seeds, and make sure it's properly watered, then my aspiration will come to fruition. In the same way, for our benevolent aspirations to be successful, to be achieved, we need to surround them with the right conditions. And principal among these is being impartial. Partiality, prejudice, all of these things prevent one's benevolent aspirations from bearing fruit.
Tene ta tela tene tanda tang humage kapsala joyon chinsi umbuge tene chitang jitin che kamda devege melam songyore la tene ti melam te yapujindo sampadabo tang ngaranso namba sanji pe tawatang te melam che jab nangi ware ala tene ti jab ke surte ya yakpo je yim becherna ta tring ngarang ki melam dinde si jab gi ware si tene jab gi ware ala namba sanji pe tawa ta tamba ti che namba ge melam changma tinde jab na yapo yung re si hyosam banda bo ji jongsong la tene te ya ngarang ki jang tu jondo je ne sena je tinde ge ndain la lep na ya ra ya na ron tempo dabo tinde ke tsela let na yanda yana chuo chimpo tinde ke ndong na let na yanda yana so chimpo dabo tinde ke ndeng la let na yanda yana jai nyen kha tang jikto ala so ke cha tinde ko na yanda te tin ting ngarang ke nalam te yangsi tak korang ngarang nupa yo na yanda me na yanda samba sang bu go ni nalam te jawgi wara la tin te jabe ke chul te tin jang tanda jang chinsi umbu nalam te tanda tinde si jab na yo re ti chen nam ba ke tinde si ne nalam jab na na hira ya bo yo re si ne hyo sam ba bo chong so.
A particular liturgy of prayer or aspiration was composed by the great Tibetan Buddhist teacher Jamyang Chense Wangpo in the 19th century. And this is a short but complete aspiration for the well-being of this world. It is, I think, an excellent example to use of what I mean by aspiration, because it accords with the basic Buddhist outlook toward things in its terms. So I would like tonight to provide this as an example of what I mean by benevolent aspirations. I use this particular composition whenever I go to sacred places or the peaks of high mountains, the sites of great rivers or lakes, or whenever I hear of danger or misfortune. And I recite this aspiration repeatedly in those places and on those occasions. So since I have experience of using this myself, I thought I would share it with you this evening.
Tene ta te yang ta tanda kong ke song na ta chitang ke ngaran so jitin che kom dana la jitin che kom de ja chen bo yin be chen na tene me samba zangbo tang jelom zangbo ya zangbo tang temba tene samji me sha pa mang bu yo re la te ye pa yin de la pemba yang mang bu jung ge yo re yang kap ka la te si samba ma da pan da bo tang teni gyalamiya te number tapa ma imba ne sem rabota ne bes jawa rabota tende dunkiya ta tende kapka la yungi yore la teni tenzu gen tola tene gari yungi yore se na teni chinon juwan chupi juchin chi ngar madraba masu talayam ne se ta tige sombang ngemba ta teni gyalong ngemba la gyalong ngemba ta jorwa ngemba la tene teni te kap la mela ta jitang che yin jungwa tong chi chok che yin jungwa sa cho me long la so pa yung chok che yin jungwa sa cho me long la so pa chupa la teni nang lu jin jungwa ya teni sha cha che ok la so pa yung chok chok ne masu talyam ne se teni kap la mela ya nasa mandra wanda bo teni puju pa che ta yang kap la che tene tundro reit la ya nasa mandawa da bota tende kap la yungi yore la masu talyam ne ta te tene ta te zawa ta jelam ta tene je bangem ba tong sambangem ba la so ba la tene jungwa yin bi cherna tene te ngaran so ngune te tabhi hieda go go ne hiwe ge tab ma yin ba 오늘 가리리 세나 단 지팅제 컴드나라 나란소 나라 대진 대바견달라 센지 메이나요랑 돈로이나요랑 강가 대진 댕킨 샤다 임바제이다 되네 나랑기 동할 문제바 나사 문제바 쟁이 문제바래라 대견도 단 지팅제 컴데 따인돌라 되네 나사 동동할 문제바 샤다 임바 대처나 대답을라 다 가리 구그리스나 로선 넘버 타부 고니 다 디게 조 선방님 받도 조왕님 받던 저 효와효 네버 드네 다 메다 센지 솔레이나야 네동 동할라서 받던 저 효와효 선방나는 잠부지 잡지도 갈쳐버리
This world is a very large place, and therefore there are people of many different types of dispositions. There are people, by which I mean human beings in this case, who are benevolent, who have benevolent attitudes and wishes, and therefore engage in benevolent deeds. And such people obviously help a great deal. There are also people who are malevolent, who have malevolent aspirations or intentions toward others, and do malevolent things. It is, according to this aspiration liturgy, it is principally through the malevolence of beings in this world that the outer and inner elements become disturbed or out of balance, and that in turn produces illnesses. Now, by outer elements, what is meant is the external elements, earth, fire, water, and air. And by inner elements, the flesh, blood, breath, and warmth, which correspond to these within our own bodies. When these become out of balance, illnesses and even epidemics can result that affect human beings and also animals. Since this is fundamentally caused by the existence of malevolence, the solution, obviously, is empathetic benevolence. And this starts with recognizing that just like yourself, each and every other being, that is, each and every other person and each and every other animal, wants to be happy just as much as you do. And just like yourself, each and every other being wants not to suffer just as much as you do. This is true of all of us. So the first aspiration to be made is that all of the malevolent intentions and actions that exist in the world, which are causes of suffering, be pacified and cease, and that the resultant suffering of sickness and so forth cease as well. And this is a very significant and important aspiration to make.
Tene ta tegendala tene tegendala ta jitang ke jitinje komdana la ngus ngarjin mandawa nomba na so ba yong yo la tini teya tanda sonde to melon tinam to sona sayo medra njunjinji patang sone tini tejendo la je kapka la jitinje kom la tini yendo la sayo tini kapka la ranginge membarwa tini tejendo la jungwa ta sada meda cho tini charcho minyam se tini kapka la pe charba mababne tini lumba tamchi kombo lan jondro andamuta tini kapka la tini pe sacha yang kaxe la pe charba shuk chenpo babne ganga chogin jikpa tan jepa andamu ta tinde yungi yuwa la tini te yang jitang ta chene jinji tini nyenka chungna yungda nong chi chi senchi nyenka chungna yungda te tini te ta ngaranso zambu lento jepe senchi te no dungal tang trawa che kalche wa la ta te la mixal ke top tang nuba tang tini takshi tini jay sena zo thugure jay sena zo thugu mare te ina ya losam number takpe ke melam yakpo che jab na tini ti melam te tini kalte nrup na ya shira yakpo re la mandrup na ya tini te la nyenka tang nepa la sopa kanya mepa yinpe cher na tini melam zampo jab che te pe kalche mo re.
As well, there are many other kinds of adversity that afflict this world. These are also sometimes connected with the elements. They are disturbances of the elements of earth and fire and water and so on. But in this case, what is meant are, in the case of earth, things like earthquakes, in the case of fire, spontaneously arising wildfires, and in the case of water, problems with rainfall, such as drought or excessive rainfall leading to floods. These kinds of natural disasters obviously harm the environment, and they also can harm or actually destroy beings. Now, to some extent, we're able to work with these with technology and other means. But what is emphasized here is praying that these things not occur and that they be pacified. If this prayer is successful and these things don't occur, all the better. But at least praying in this way can certainly do no harm.
Tene ta te ta bo yon jitang ta te drebo dunghal ge namba ta jitin je kham dana manjung melam zangbo nguma ta lama chi shin tamba tin ju ge taparela tene ngaran so yon te tar do samba zangbo ge bone tab go ba che ta tene te yendo la jui on de sena ya tene medon men roan tada ke jula changchu senchu rumbochi songne tene ta thela te tabu ge dunghal te minjung wa che dunghal te da chalwa che deji phusam sopa ta demba che ta jitin je khamdana la gogi warala te la ya kari gogi ware sena tene ta mi na ya ganga samba sangbo tene me pensing jiki jikla samba sangpo tang jamba tang nije tang janchu ku sen tang tenpa jay tang te yenda la me mayin pa ta dundru ge rei su to pa senjin mandawa senjin chenpo senjin chunchun kandri ji yin na ya tene tenzo jiki jikla ta ngaran so jiki jikla nepa mepa jiki jikla penpa tang tenpe ge samba sangpo jeki jela tene dewa tang tende ki chamba dunga tang tande ki nyingje tene tartuk tenji dewa tonde ki chonchu ki san tang tenpa jula chanchu senchu rinpoche ngangi je ne se nensi samjur tal se tene teyang ta te tabu ki samba sangpo te ta jeki jela kulma tab ne jia jeki jela labza jab ne jewa la sopa ya yapore la yang te tabu maimpa rangyin ki samba sampo jewe ki manlam jab rangyin ki jambanjung ki manlam jab rangyin ki shangchuk ki san jewe ki manlam jab na te manlam te chebar tam papa je yinpe cher na te tabu ki manlam jab ku jab goge ye bache ta tin huma kono bege deta bu manam jab na yore.
This is essentially an aspiration for the ending of the sufferings in this world that are the result of certain causes. After that, one aspires to the achievement or creation of causes of happiness. Now, the aspiration is that all beings in the world, both human and non-human, cultivate the precious awakened mind in their minds. Now, fundamentally, what all of us want is happiness. And if you are benevolent, you want the happiness of everyone. Happiness, the achievement of happiness, in turn, depends upon the existence of benevolence. It depends upon people, human beings, learning to love one another and feel compassion for one another and be concerned with the welfare of one another. And with regard to other beings, and non-human here refers to all of the other species, great and small, that exist in this world, you also aspire that they have love, which is desire for the happiness of one another, compassion, desire that one another be free from suffering, and the awakened mind. And that, in short, everyone throughout the world be without any malevolent intentions or deeds. The aspiration implies, the way it is phrased, that one aspires that beings encourage one another to benevolence and to compassion. But it is also an aspiration for the spontaneous arising of love, of compassion, and of aspiration itself within the mind of all beings.
Tene ta te tabla ya tene zo kari gugre se na tene chitang tan jitin je kam de yin ya rang senki tam ji yin ya rang ngaran so ge chopa chung chung ji yin ya rang kangala dewa tang ten ko yo la dewa tang tembar hu som be manam jab ju te pe kal chem borete dewa ti dembar se bala devi jodang tembar ji senki ton ji dewa to devi jodang tembar ji sung yo la devi ki jodang tembar te pe kal chem bore tene devi ki jodang tembar te kandi ji re se na tene chegi che la jamba tan hin je tan changchu ke sem de ye na tene chegi che la tro se chegi che la phemba se ne chitang dewa tan tembar yung yo la dewa tan tembar ma si pa ke tene devi ki jote yang denju te kal che ge yo la teacher na jitin je kham de sem ji su yin ya tene samba sang po tan tembar tene chegi che la cham sem tan tembar chegi che la ni je tan tembar tene te yang tene ta perna mei chopa chung chung ji yin ya nda mei chopa chenpo ji yin ya nda jitin je kham ji senjin tham ji yin ya nda zambu leng tene senjin ge reisu topa medam me main pa reisu topa tham ji yin ya nda te kanga tene karigu gi ware se na dewa tang tengu gi ware la dewa tang tembar se bala dewa khuna la melam jana peng mare perna te kari re se na ngarang ke tanda kondu hiba yindu josi tena meto jewa hiu sambe ki peng mare dewi jodang tengu gi ware meto tela meto jewi ki jodang tengu gi ware meto tela jewi ki jodi yapo ji chorni te meto je tu gi yaba yindu la dewa tang tembe ki melam jabni dewi ki jodang tembe melam jabni tene samba zambo tang temba tang tene hlosam nambar takpa tang temba ji se na tela tene dewa tang temba tang dewi jodang temba yungu yo ware
Whether we are considering all beings everywhere, or merely the beings of this world, or even a smaller group of beings, a group within this world of whatever size, what the beings we are thinking about need is happiness. And if what we want is happiness, and if the aspiration we wish to make is that all beings in that group or this world or everywhere be happy, we need to, in addition, aspire that these beings possess the causes of happiness. Now, causes of happiness mean the attitude of love and compassion and empathy that I spoke of earlier. Because if beings are loving, compassionate, and empathetic, they will assist and befriend one another. And empathy, of course, starts from understanding that others want to be happy in the same way and to the same degree as yourself. So if you make an aspiration for a small group, a large society, a whole planet, or all beings everywhere, for the happiness of all of these beings, it is not enough to aspire saying, may all these beings be happy. You must also make the aspiration, and may they all possess the causes of happiness. Because if you simply aspire that beings be happy, this is like my expecting a flower to just appear out of my table. But if you make the aspiration, and may beings have the causes of happiness, then that is like having the pot, the soil, and the seeds. So the benevolent aspiration that needs to be made is, may all beings possess happiness and its causes. And an aspiration that is formulated in that way will be successful.
Tene ta tejenda la dungal ji jodong tawar chi songa la tene ngaranso tene ta semchin je reso to pa kangala dungal ta ta ne sa mugela so pa kan inaya dungal ta tralgu gi warela dungal ta tralwa te zo karigu gi waresena dungal ji jodong tawar te pe kar chempore dungal ji jode kanderesena 제기질라 선방 nembasepa 선바 상품해봐 선방 nembasepa 제기질라 네바세pa 제기질라 네바세파라 테니 둥할때 용기요 알아라 테니 제기질 티처나 제기질라 네바세파 때가 달고요 제기질라 네바세파 때가 달고게 탑라 가리 고게요 알아세나 제기질라 네바세피 선방 nem바테로 달고요 선방 nem바티 이나 제기질라 네바세그리 제기질라 네바세나 제기질라 둥할이 용거래 dungal te tawar sepala chegi chela nepa sepa te tar gugere nepa sepa te tar gi jola kandi gugere sena chegi chela nepa sepi sambang empate to tar gugere ware sambang empate to tar ni samba sangpo to dena nepa sega mare nepa majina dungari yungi yo mare la ta te ngaranso gi chei sanje gi suanda bota tene tega se tebgna ne tembanda bo mai ba ta ngune te ngus 통게 뭐버지 임비처나 동할 탐지 센진 탐지 동할도 탈고기 와래 동할도 타워 세발라 드니 동하지 조동 탈고기 와래 동하지 조 가리 탈고기 와래세나 제기젤 네바세파테다 탈고기 제기젤 네바세파테도 타워 세발라 제기젤 드니 펜생 삼바삼바도 템베고 네셈 히와지 니바르도 갈치와 임비처나 데이터를 나람 잡지티 베 갈치
At the same time as we aspire that all beings possess happiness and the causes of happiness, we must aspire that all beings be free of suffering and, for the same reason, its causes. It is certain that all beings suffer. We suffer in various ways and for various reasons. We experience sickness and warfare and famine and all sorts of adversities and disasters that make us suffer. What we want with regard to suffering is simply to get rid of it altogether. In order to get rid of suffering, however, we must get rid of its causes. And the principal cause of much of our suffering is malevolence and the malevolent harm that we inflict on one another. So, if you want to stop suffering, you have to stop beings harming one another. The only way for beings to stop harming one another is if beings cease to be malevolent. As long as beings are malevolent, they will harm one another, and doing so, they will all suffer. If beings cease to be malevolent, they will not harm one another, and they will not suffer. This is not merely something that was said by the Buddha or something that you found in a book. This is something that is a matter of common sense. And this is why benevolence is so very important, because it is benevolence that gets rid of malevolence. And getting rid of malevolence, you get rid of harm inflicted on others. And by getting rid of that, you get rid of suffering.
Tene ta teya cerdo jitinje kona shawa number 2 yoarela shawa number 2 bode kandere na pemba senkiji nepa senkiji number 2 tene ta teya pemba senkinte ta te perna kangala ngoso drup gupige dutsinrabuji ta pemba senkinte shawa de drup gubaje je ta nepa senkinte tene inji minji 빵고 바지래. tini teya karire sena pemba singinte rangna yinayong pemba gugiyo. Yina yinayong pemba gugiyo. Te yendola perna mela yinayong pemba gugiyo. Tundola yinayong pemba gugiyo. Senchi chimboji yinayong tela pemba gugiyo. Senchi chunchuji yinayong pemba gugiyo. Sen yebaji yinayong tela pemba gugiyo. Sen mebaji yinayong tela pemba. Pemba di pe zo chimboto kal chimboji rela. Te yinji minji gubaji ta. Tene te yendola nipa te neparela, nepa singite te dang galwa yinbicherna yinji minji me gubache. Te yinbicherna nepa te rangla yinayon nepa gugayo mare, yinla yinayon nepa gugayo mare. Te yendola perna me yinji tenla yinayon nepa gugayo mare la, tundola sopa senchin chimboton chunchun kan yinayon nepa gugayo mare. Te yendola sem dang dembege semchinji yinayon nepa gugayo mare la, sem mebege pembola sopa la yinayon nepa te gugayo mare, nepa te nyengayo mare. Ti cherna nepa te to tal gugayo mare la. Ta tige pemba tan nepa nyingbo te kani injong degayo mare se na, teni pensem la teni pemba tinjong degayo mare. Nesem la teni nepa tinjong degayo mare la. Teni tige zawa te teni jitanga pemba drup sedu le labu yo mare la. Nepa pang sedu le labu yo mare te di zawa te yapu je chol ne pemba drubar sepa la pensem te koni kong pel guba je ta. Te yendo nepa pangwar sepa la nesem te rang ngo nen guba je yimba te yapu je he na teni tige go ni teni pemba te drup topa to nepa te nepa tele jab topa je yimba chana pensem pelwa ta nesem pangwa te pe kalchim.
Basically, there are two things that we do in the world. These are help and harm. We help one another and we harm one another. Help includes everything that we need, everything that we want. Help is like ambrosia or universal medicine. And harm is what has to stop. Each and every one of us as an individual needs help. Others need help. All human beings need help. Animals need help. Big animals need help. Tiny animals need help. Sentient beings need help, and the inanimate environment needs help as well. The antithesis of help is harm, and harm is everything that we must stop, summed up into one word. We don't want to be harmed. Others don't want to be harmed. No human being wishes to be harmed. No animal wants to be harmed. No sentient being with a mind wants to be harmed, and the environment must not be harmed as well. The source of all of the help is benevolence, just as the source of all of the harm is malevolence. Now, it is not easy to actually help, and it is not easy to completely stop harming. But what we can do, and what it is most important that we do, is cultivate the attitude of benevolence, the source of help, and eradicate the attitude of malevolence, the source of harm.
Tene ta teacherna ta tanda ngarazo je nalam japegi yul ta nalam japegi sul ndabola tene cheprashara yo mare kan kal chegi yo are se na losam number takwate tene jitin je kam tene che na ne je kan ina ya je la pensem ke samba samba tan tempe ko ne melom zambu japchita je ta te la nesem je timi ma gopa je be galche ge yo la tini teacher na te tabu ge melom zambu je japna tini ndrebu zambu je ta yung tukre perna ngarange ngusu 통하게 온데 세나야 나란서 다 뱀이 요래라 되니 뱀이게 되니 제 나란서 둥할 때 쿠르마도 봐 되니 다 나란서라 둥할 때 바보데 야미 발라 투바잡 뭐잡 뭐가 tradi시 되니 다 대견들 탑 넘버 나서 보세요 와래데 이나야 ngarangen tonsur la tel ndib kai chung yo mare la tel gari chung yo re se na tene tanda changwe tali la mi song na loche la tene ta jagar dun jor ge peri yongzu ge man tunchur ja tam banda ne solwa tap na pengre suare la tene kashi ge tel ichi yo re kashi ge tel ichi yo mare mare te inaya te tabi man tungsur jati ndambare ndambala tene ta tigi ngayna lo mangbo la tene pe yiji nyenge meri la pachu yigi gindrawa yuwa mare pachu ndoya ge lega yuwa mare kandre chungi yuwa hako yuwa mare kanya chungi yuwa mare te inaya man tungsur jati ndane te lo te la tene chay pe yizininga patala chekitela pasu yegetang topache pasu kechahi topache pasu maindravashi topache tini rimbi ge tese devi gondabo tinde shewandabo tinde chungwarela tini te tabu ge samba zambotang dembe goni nesem pangni che sonde tong mewan sejute galchembo yimbate ta ngarange tongsurla tinde chungyore.
It doesn't really matter who you call to witness your aspiration and what style you make it in. What seems to matter far more is the purity of your intention. That is to say, that the motivation and purpose of your aspiration be entirely benevolent, which means that it be unpolluted by or unmixed with malevolence of any kind. If you make aspirations or prayers in that way, it seems that they actually will achieve a positive result. I've seen evidence of this, and what I'm going to tell you concerns the Tibetan community, those who live within the country of Tibet. As is well known, since the invasion, Tibetans have been oppressed by the Chinese. And it seems that efforts at armed resistance or revolt have not produced any kind of improvement or benefit whatsoever. However, one year, His Holiness the Dalai Lama made the recommendation that the worldwide Tibetan community get together and altogether recite a total of 10 billion Om Mani Padme Hum mantras in that 1 year. Now, when this announcement was made, some people thought this is not going to help at all, and other people thought it would help. But up to that year, there had been no possibility of communication back and forth between those within Tibet and those outside it, either through letters or through actual meeting. Once those mantras were said by the worldwide community, that changed. And since that time, there has been communication and travel. I'm convinced, therefore, of the effectiveness of benevolent aspiration and prayer free of malevolence.
Tene ta te tabu ge cherna ta tanda ngarange hyujula tene nanam ja solwata tene samba sangpota lasam number ta ba te ge goni njitin chi kamde la pembe ge nanam ya bo jabjite be gal chempori sangta tene terin te sang hyogi
in short, what I'm trying to say to you is that I think it is of the utmost importance that we all make aspirations or prayers for this world with a completely benevolent intention, free of any kind of malevolence. And I'm going to stop with that. But if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. There's a microphone up here. If I could ask that you use that.
Good evening. I wondered why Rinpoche made this prayer when he was at the peak of high mountains or at the in front of a great flowing river, as beautiful as they are. Is this because they're very powerful places?
초로와라 대 자첨보 나보진 통지들 나놈데 자첨보 나보지 용그래 삼바도 로온 템블 전에 때나 망보제 통그라다 강가라 템베 나놈다고 잡나 되니 되게 레완다보다 되게 제게 요래 되네 대 나보지 그 당가나 제 남배 내걸란도네 자나 로생마다 되네 자나 롱신지리 그제 된델란도데 된데 하나 잡이.
It's because when you're in such places, you have a feeling of vastness. On the peak of a mountain, you see a huge vista. And at the banks of a great or vast, powerful river, you feel a sense of tremendous scope. And this feeling of vastness or sensation of vastness allows you to think big, to actually think in terms of greater scope, benefiting greater numbers of beings, and so on. So therefore, I've used this aspiration liturgy. For example, when I was on pilgrimage in China on Mount Wutashan and other sacred mountains.
이나야 대니마라 좀밖에 되는 통마송때 다제 비엘기 쇼라야 카초니 나랑 나놈데 잡송라 tinti 제세나 삼바상 보레데 제세나 당가라서 베리 켄다부지 그때 소린다부지 정요 멘도 넘버마다 바인도 삼송.
Now, it could have been that in one of these instances, my motivation was less than entirely pure. When I was on one sacred mountain in China from which you can see a certain part in Tibet, although on that day it was hidden by the fog, and I turned in that direction and recited the aspiration vigorously, facing that direction, so you could say that there was a certain aspect of partiality in praying for the people of Tibet.
Rinpoche, I've always been bothered by the statement that all beings want to be happy. The trouble I've had with that is the definition of happiness. Could you elaborate on that?
That jidangso de simjin tamchi dewa dogi yo somba de simjin ge depa ge dewa de kare.
생긴게 내배 대와티 다치당게 샘진라 가리요르세나 루다 뭐다 이당 숨요르라 드니 디나니 zowa de kandere se na lu da yi infode culture teacher na lu la nasa me ba tene devo ye ba tene tanda mato ba makam ba tene nasa me ba je da tene te dewa tanda ba jibu ye ba je tene sem je on de siena sem la semti dungha yi jo yi la joa ta tende bang yung ge wa la te ta bu gi yi la joa me ba semti me ba tene sem ba jibu ye ba te la dewa tanda se go.
The happiness that beings want has several aspects because beings have several aspects. Basically, you can say that each and every one of us has three main faculties: body, speech, and mind. Of these three, however, two are foremost, and these are our bodies and our minds. When we think of happiness, what we want for our bodies is freedom from all of those conditions which make us physically uncomfortable. For example, sickness, starvation, perishing through thirst, and so on. We want to be physically at ease. And with our minds, we want to be free from anxiety, from misery, from sadness, and from depression. We want to be mentally at ease. So fundamentally what we want is a state of ease.
Hello, Rinpoche. Happy to see you. I've had a strange year in a new place, and I was upset over, I had more rats in my attic of my new house than anyone had ever seen. And I was practicing upstairs, and I got I think my practice fell off. For 2 months this man came, and would kill the rats. And someone said, oh, you could put a cat up in the attic. And then someone said, no, you can't do that to a cat. And the rats ate into the insulation so that fiberglass was blowing all through the house, and I hadn't known it. And for months I was breathing fiberglass. But on the other hand, I thought, what is the point of this practice? So because here I am instigating the death of all these rats. And then also surrounding the house are these large iguanas, and even an alligator ran by. A 9-foot alligator at about 45 miles an hour.
What?
A 9-foot alligator at about 45 miles an hour. And you try to communicate with this level of life, of beings, right? They're older than the dinosaurs. And they are on a different wavelength. So I'm just wondering, I'm trying to deal with this as best I can, but I'm wondering, if I should just be saying, "Oh, money, pay me home," or the level of what's going on is a little. I don't know how to relate practice with this, and I feel really badly for having been in this position. And
yato nana jewa mompo yore. Jewa de tsu tsitsi chongwa de mare, jewa ngonere. Jewa mompo yore. Dene jewa seken ki mi konso lapsons. Dene morong sempa dopson. Kare jene morong nyamlan zo na yang jewa mompo sena dekpa yores, nyamlan da gaga yores. Dene jewa konso ki jewa masepe tapakashi ki sena, dene shimi de jewa ki namdete. Shona, shimi. Jewa ki namdete shona. Dene kanyon sunu dela yan dekpa yores. Dene shimi korang dekpa sa gares. Dene jewa de tsoge yang Tine tata jang detso zatsane. Tine jang chilo the nalo bata la ngatso ke insulation dwa. Tine detso zatsane. Tine the insulation ke fiberglass de kasaka lungna na dogres. De dogres. Tine the jiwa kona mares. Young the lizard gerich iguana se. Iguana kasaka chilo jogiores. Tine de mayim page alligator or crocodile? Alligator. Alligator the foot guyapa. Get it chilo ne drosa. Tine mild tine gadi dropo droit na drosa. Tine alligator de tamolo kesha love you mandos. Ko tine dinosaur lecho konso rik yingba ese. Kanzo go dose. Da money don't get dose. Shenda kango dose.
melon yapıda değil. Melon yapıda.
Make good aspirations.
melon yapıda. Mani yapıda danşıda. Ne pengire var ya.
Make good aspirations and recite Om Mani Padme Hum as is suggested, and that will help.
Tene tela kariresiena. Tene tafi yenda siena. Yana parbol necire yana yin necire. Teisena necire, teisena pencere, teisena necire. Tene melon yapıda, mani yapıda dana, teisena pencere. Mafey na ne pande daşa jatamba yungumare.
Most everything else you could do might help or it might harm. Making aspirations and reciting Om Mani Padme Hum might or might not help, but it certainly won't do any harm.
Ya, tene pek tesamsin.
And we'll stop with that for this evening.
Jega